Good morning, everyone. Are you ready to start a new week of school? I know I am. If you have already looked at your memory verse, which you should have, by the way, so today's Tuesday, so you should have already looked at your memory verse yesterday for Monday. But however, if you looked at this week's memory verse, you probably realized that we're finishing the story of Ruth this week. And as I was getting ready for today's lesson, I kept going over the verse in my mind, but the one that I've memorized since a kid is the French version. So the whole time that I was getting ready, it kept coming to mind. So let's see. Let me say it for you. I know you guys like to hear me say French, so I'm gonna go ahead and say it in French for you guys, okay? So the verse that you guys are working on this week is Ruth 1:16 B. But you're working on the second half. I'm gonna go ahead and say the whole verse. I remember the whole verse from BBS and French, Sunday school, all that. Okay? Ruth 1, verset 16. Ne me presse pas de te laisser, de retourner loin de toi. Où tu iras, j'irai. Où tu demeureras, je demeurerai. Ton Dieu sera mon Dieu. No, wait, hold on. I think I messed up. Ton Dieu sera mon Dieu. Et ton peuple. No, wait. I messed up. I can't believe I messed up. Let me see. Ton peuple sera mon peuple, et ton Dieu sera mon Dieu. Sorry, I messed up on that. Okay, but anyway, so we left off. I'm not exactly sure where we left off, but quick review about where I think we left off. Ruth was gleaning in a field. Remember we talked about gleaning where God commanded the field owners to let the grain fall on the ground as they're passing by. So you remember Ruth, and you remember Boaz. Remember was going through, and he was like, greeting his workers. He was like, "Lord be with you," and then they're like, "Lord bless you." And when they responded, "The Lord bless you." So she's gleaning in the field, and remember Boaz also told his manager, I guess you could call him his manager, the guy who was in charge of all of his workers, to make sure that as the workers were gleaning the wheat and barley, to make sure that when Ruth is behind them, to drop extra grain on the floor for her to pick up. So that's what she's doing there, and she actually got to meet Boaz and talk to him. And there was something important that I had you guys remember. I don't remember if you guys remember, but I told you to remember something very important about Boaz and Elimelech. Elimelech was Naomi's husband. Naomi and Elimelech are Ruth's mother and father-in-law. I told you to remember that Boaz is related to Elimelech. I hope you guys still remember that because that's going to be important for tomorrow's lesson. Boaz is related to Elimelech, okay? So he talked to her and got to know her and told her about how he had heard that she had left her country to come back to be with Naomi, her mother-in-law. And that was a tough decision for her to make because remember her sister-in-law Orpah stayed behind. She stayed in Moab. She didn't come with her and Naomi. So she talked to Boaz. He had her come and eat with him and his workers, provided her lunch, got her some water to drink, and she went right back to gleaning. And because of what Boaz told his workers, she ended up coming back to the house with much more than she would have gotten gleaning otherwise. So Naomi, when she got home, Naomi was really surprised. She was like, "Wow, you got a lot." And she asked Ruth where she was, and Ruth told her, "I actually went to the field that belonged to a man named Boaz." And when she said that, Naomi was like, "Wait, what? Boaz? He's related to us. Remember, Boaz is related to Elimelech. He's related to us. He's our kinsman." I believe that is where we left off, so we're going to go on and carry on from there. So back during these days, in the Jews, God had commanded the Jews to, I'll get my words right in a minute. God had a lot of commandments that he had put in place to help look after like the widows and the orphans. Like remember when it comes to gleaning, God told them that they had to leave it on the ground so that the widows and orphans could come and pick that up. He had certain laws in place to help look after people like that. And the same thing applied to the widows after their husband died. God had said that when the husband dies, the man who is the most related or closest related to him, his closest kinsman, should marry the widow so that they can continue to keep married a widow, they have children, and that way they'll be able to keep the land or the property that belongs to the widow's husband. They'll be able to keep it in the family. So Naomi realized that she's getting old, and she wanted to make sure that Ruth's future was secure. God had put this in place so that the woman would have security and have a man to still look after her husband had died. So Naomi was realizing that she was getting older and she wanted Ruth's future to be secure. She also wanted to see some grandchildren before she died. So she told Ruth, she told her everything that I just told you about the law in her country, about how God had put that in place. And the man who would come and marry the widow, he was a kinsman redeemer. So Naomi told Ruth all about that, and then she told her around this time also, when they had finished, because by now they had finished gleaning the wheat and barley. When they had finished, the men would take the wheat, the grain that they had got, and they would put it on the ground. And they would do it at night because it was more windy at night. They'd do it at night, and they throw the grain up in the air so that the wind would come through and blow away all the unnecessary stuff, all the bad stuff. The wind would blow it all away. So they did that at night after they had gathered up all their crop, and then after doing that, they would get together and have a big meal, and then they would sleep next to the piles of grain because in order to keep away thieves. So Naomi told Ruth to get dressed up, do her hair, get dressed up, put on some ointment or perfume, more like ointment in those days, and told her to go to the field and see where Boaz was laying. Basically, she told her to watch the men as they were eating. When they're done eating, they had their meal and everything, to make sure she noticed where Boaz went to go lie down to sleep. And when she was done doing that, Naomi told her to go and sit at his feet and uncover his feet and wait for him to tell her what she needed to do. And when Ruth heard that, she said, okay, I'll do everything that you have told me. So Ruth goes to the field and she does everything that Naomi told her to do. And at midnight, Boaz awoke with a start. Sometimes you just wake up in the middle of the night, you don't know what woke you up. That's basically what happened to him. He just awoke with a start. And then he looked down at his feet and he saw a woman lying there. He was like, who are you? What are you doing here? He asked her who she was, and she said that I am Ruth, your servant. And then she told him about how he was her kinsman, because remember, he's related to Elimelech. And she told him that he was her kinsman, and basically told him, to perform his duty of being kinsman. And Boaz was touched that she would come to him because she was much younger, and she could have gone to any of the other men who were younger, who were more rich, but she didn't do that. And he thanked her for that, for looking with, the Bible says, looking with favor on him, like actually going to him and asking him to do that. And he said that he would do that. However, there was one kinsman who was closer to her than him, so he needed to talk to him and make sure that he didn't want to marry Ruth and buy her land before he actually went through the process of doing that. So that's where today's lesson ends. Tomorrow we are going to finish the story of Ruth, and on Friday there might be a surprise. There might be. You don't know. We'll see. There might be a surprise. Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Oh, by the way, also in today's I can't remember, in your folder for this week, there is an activity page, and it has it's like a word search talking about Ruth and Boaz. That will be your grade for this week. Last week you had to write a summary on the resurrection story. You don't have to do that this week. This week you just have to do the Bible activity page, the word search, and that will count as your Bible grade for this week. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day.